May is going to be talking, and her theme is getting to know yourself. And of course, this is a very important spiritual task that we all have, and very interesting. And I just wanted to say one or two words about May, who, of course, was originally from Iran, but she's lived in many various countries all around the world before moving to UK. And May has been working in the field of psychiatry since 1996. So that's coming along 25 years, and currently lives in Scotland. So she's not coming from like a long way away. Scotland, she's very local, which is good. And at the moment, she's currently working for the NHS, and she's a consultant psychiatrist. So I'm sure we're going to be all the better and all the healthier. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand you over to May, and a warm welcome, May.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to try and share.
Yes, yes.
Okay, let me know what you can see. Okay, can you all see the slides?
Yes, yes, fantastic.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to discuss some of my thoughts about getting to know ourselves. I will be using some of the Baha'i writings in this talk, but I will not go into the history or some of the other teachings of the faith, but please do ask if you have any questions. Before I start, I have to give you a warning. I will definitely raise a lot of questions for you. So don't expect it's all going to be easy. So we go through various battles with ourselves throughout our lives. We go between feelings of being inadequate to being angry at ourselves, others, or situations, to being proud of ourselves, believing we are capable of doing anything we like. So an enormous amount of conflict exists in our thoughts and actions within our day-to-day activities. We learn that we should be humble and not conceited, but on the other hand, we are allowed to even vote for ourselves in election of Baha'i institutions if we feel that we would be able to serve in that capacity, or to even accept an appointment in the appointed institutions. In our jobs, we are expected to be aware of our good qualities and should be able to bring these to the attention of our employers so that we can continue to progress at work. So the plan today is that we will consider some of the forces that we are faced with and have to deal with, which frankly can cause such conflict within us that makes them hard to cope with. And then we will look at our reality and what steps we should take to be living the way we should be. In the Baha'i writings, particularly in the hidden words, Baha'u'llah gives us advice about the things that conceal our perfection. Unfortunately, although we recognize these lower qualities in others, sometimes we don't recognize them in ourselves. He says, "O children of Adam, holy words and pure and goodly deeds ascend unto the heaven of celestial glory. Strive that your deeds may be cleansed from the dust of self and hypocrisy, and find favor at the court of glory. For ere long, the assayers of mankind shall, in the holy presence of the adored one, accept not but absolute virtue and deeds of stainless purity. This is the day star of wisdom and of divine mystery that had shone above the horizon of the divine will. Blessed are they that turn thereunto." We therefore need to be constantly on watch, on guard, to make sure we cleanse our thoughts and deeds. It's sometimes very difficult to realize when we are a hypocrite. Like, I may tell others that we need to take care of the environment, but I wouldn't recycle or even would even litter. Again, in Hidden Words, Baha'u'llah says, O son of man, read not the sins of others so long as thou art thyself a sinner. Shouldest thou transgress this command, accursed wouldst thou be, and to this I bear witness. This is by far one of the most difficult, unacceptable qualities to get rid of, and as its consequences are severe, its punishment is severe too. It is so prevalent. Everywhere you go, people like to gossip and talk about others, so make it difficult to not to engage in conversations with someone when they really like to tell you about someone else's problems or bad behaviors or even their ugly child or unfashionable clothes or etc. Of course, let's face it, a lot of times we're also really interested to hear things about others, sometimes under the pretext of wanting to know how they are. This can make it harder to get away from backbiting. It therefore requires a great deal of self-control and reminders of its consequences. Again, in Hidden Words, Baha'u'llah says, O children of desire, put away the garment of vainglory and divest yourselves of the attire of haughtiness. Have you ever thought why sometimes we get mad at others because they tell us we are wrong or have done something that we should not have? Is that just because we are actually wronged and they were not just? Or could it be because our ego is bruised and traumatized and we don't like it? So how do we know if our feelings of hurt or anger are due to an unjust act from others? Or is it our vainglory and haughtiness? I don't have an answer, just feel that we should always be on guard with ourselves and our actions. And since Baha'u'llah talks about the garment of vainglory and the attire of haughtiness, to me, they appear to cover a larger part of my lower nature than I may think, and would be a lot more difficult to shake off. Another one of the hidden words, O my servant, purge thy heart from malice and innocent of envy, enter the divine court of holiness. Looking at these beautiful words makes us realize that the things that we have to fight with all the time. It doesn't mean that we are always jealous or envious or being malicious toward others. It just means we have to be very mindful of our thoughts and make sure these negative qualities are stopped from growing within us. Sometimes we rationalize our thoughts like, I'm not jealous, but why should they have so much money? Or it serves them right for losing the money. What did they need so much money for? Another one of the hidden words, O quintessence of passion, put away all covetousness and seek contentment. For the covetous hath ever been deprived, and the contented hath ever been loved and praised. Another one of the forces attached to our lower nature is covetousness, which again can appear under the different garment of just wanting to be happy, or I deserve more, or what's wrong with having the luxury, or everyone else has it, why shouldn't I? I don't mean every time we want to make more money or want some luxury or a comfortable life, we are not content. We just have to question ourselves to make sure we don't miss anything. Again, Baha'u'llah says, O companion of my throne, hear no evil and see no evil. Abase not thyself, neither sigh or weep. Speak no evil, that thou mayest not hear it spoken unto thee, and magnify not the faults of others, that thine own faults may not appear great, and wish not the abasement of anyone, that thine own abasement be not exposed. Have you noticed, if you're in a big crowded place, everybody's talking loudly. Of course, we just need to do that because everybody needs to hear each other. But have you also noticed if someone, for no reason, whispers, we tend to whisper too. This is the same in ordinary conversations. The louder I talk, the louder the other person needs to talk. This also applies to when we say bad things about others. It somehow causes our faults to appear and look bigger. To me, this is like the physics law that every action has a reaction. So when we talk badly about someone, it comes back to us and makes us look even worse. We have looked at some of the forces that we have to fight with throughout our lives. What has been mentioned are in no way complete and with just a sample. There is a reason that Baha'u'llah mentions these to us as they are part of our lower nature, and if not harnessed, can severely affect our reality, our higher nature. Now, let's look at our reality, what we are made of according to the Baha'i writings. In the Arabic hidden words, Baha'u'llah says, "O son of being, with the hands of power I made thee, and with the fingers of strength I created thee, and within thee have I placed the essence of my light. Be thou content with it and seek naught else. For my work is perfect and my command is binding. Question it not, nor have a doubt thereof." It's amazing to think we have been created by the hands of God. However, I want to draw your attention to the part that he says God's creation is perfect. It makes one wonder, how dare we question God's work? So when we start thinking ourselves as terrible, inept, or incapable, we need to remember that by thinking this way, we are actually questioning God's excellent and perfect work. In the Baha'i writings, there are so many beautiful passages about the great station of man. Again, in 7 Valleys, we read, "Likewise, reflect upon the perfection of man's creation, and that all these planes and states are folded up and hidden within him. Dost thou deem thyself a small and puny form when thou foldest within thyself the greater world?" Baha'u'llah invites us to think about the greatness of the human creation and quotes a poem from Imam Ali, who was one of the Imams for Shia Muslims, explaining the vastness of man's reality, although unfortunately we consider ourselves as a small and puny form. Here, how beautifully Baha'u'llah describes the perfection of human beings in the hidden words. "O my servant, thou art even as a finely tempered sword, concealed in the darkness of its sheath, and its value hidden from the artificer's knowledge." He then tells us what is this perfection hidden behind and what should we do about it. "Wherefore, come forth from the sheath of self and desire, that thy worth may be made resplendent and manifest unto all the world." I'm mentioning all these to impress the fact that we are made perfect and from good quality, but our reality is hidden under the cover of self and desire, which we need to get rid of to achieve our potential. So when we make a mistake and start thinking badly about ourselves, we need to remember we are working toward perfection and have to try hard to come out from that darkness of the sheet. So now let's look at the steps we need to take towards happiness and perfection. Let's read these profound words from Abdul Baha. "Beware lest ye harm any soul or make any heart to sorrow, lest ye wound any man with your words, be he known to you or a stranger, be he friend or foe. Pray ye for all. Ask ye that all be blessed, all be forgiven. Beware, beware, lest any of you seek vengeance. Beware, beware, lest ye offend the feelings of another, even though he be an evildoer and he wish you ill. Look not upon the creatures, turn ye to the Creator. See ye not the never yielding people? See but the Lord of hosts. Gaze ye not down upon the dust? Gaze upward at the shining sun, which hath caused every patch of darksome earth to glow with light. When calamity striketh, be ye patient and composed. However afflicted your sufferings may be, stay ye undisturbed, and with perfect confidence in the abounding grace of God, brave ye the tempest of tribulations and fiery ordeals. When we look at the usual day-to-day conversations and in movies, like how much people swear at each other and how much insult each other, Abdul-Baha has forbidden us from words and acts that may cause sadness in someone, let alone cause them physical injury. Can we imagine what would happen if everyone was so thoughtful at all times as to not make anyone sad? One of our grandchildren becomes so distressed if she feels that she has hurt someone's feelings, that she would cry unconsolably while apologizing. This is how sensitive we need to be to the feelings of others. Abdul-Baha in Traveler's Narrative says the language of kindness is the lodestone of hearts and the food of the soul. It stands in the relation of ideas to words and is as an horizon for the shining of the sun of wisdom and knowledge. In other words, the language of kindness attracts the hearts and feeds the souls. It's important to remember that the language of kindness should also be used for ourselves and not only others. In my understanding, whatever we say should be said in a sincere language of kindness. Can we imagine saying words that have no real meaning in relation to the life of the soul? It's like putting clothes on a scarecrow. On the outside, it will look nice, but is empty inside. This is how words of kindness add substance to our conversations and interactions and give soul to the words. Again, Abdul-Baha, the greatest exemplar of the Baha'i faith, in his Will and Testament, not only reminds us that in this sacred dispensation, conflict and contention are in no wise permitted. Every aggressor deprives himself of God's grace. He makes it our duty. It is incumbent upon everyone to show the utmost love, rectitude of conduct, straightforwardness, and sincere kindliness unto all the peoples and kindreds of the world, be they friends or strangers. He even goes further to say, so intense must be the spirit of love and loving kindness that the stranger may find himself a friend, the enemy a true brother, no difference whatsoever existing between them. So those of you who have done the book 5 and are animators for the junior youth group may remember the story of Musunda, a 13-year-old girl in the book Breezes of Confirmation. Musunda's cousin Rose tells her this quote, "Blessed is he who preferred his brother before himself." And Musunda's immediate thought is, if I preferred my brother over myself and he preferred me over himself, things would work well. Sometimes we think if we show love to others, they think they can take advantage of us. Yes, that may be true, and we are advised to always consider fairness and justice, which means we should not allow being taken advantage of. But being fair does not negate preferring others to ourselves. This could become a tough dilemma. Am I being taken advantage of by showing love to the person who I think is taking advantage of me? I don't have an answer, just that we need to be aware and conscious of these thoughts and feelings before we consider our course of action. Baha'u'llah says, by the righteousness of the Lord, ye were created to show love one to another, and not perversity and rancor. Take pride not in love for yourselves, but in love for your fellow creatures. How often we hear people saying, I have looked after others all my life, now I have to look after myself. Can we find a balance in this? Can we remember that loving and serving others will help us feel better about ourselves and would allow us to love ourselves too? Frankly, I think sometimes people get it a bit the other way around. They think they have to look after themselves before looking after others, but then become so consumed with all the ruminations of who did what to me, or how did someone deal with me, or if I don't look after myself, who will? And then they don't get to the part of serving others. It is well known that altruistic acts help one's self-esteem and self-worth. However, it all needs to be sincere. In a letter dated 17th of February 1933, written on behalf of Shoghi Effendi, the guardian of the Baha'i faith, to an individual believer, he says, we cannot segregate the human heart from the environment outside us and say that once one of these is reformed, everything will be improved. Man is organic with the world. His inner life molds the environment and is itself also deeply affected by it. The one acts upon the other, and every abiding change in the life of man is the result of these mutual reactions. I found this quote very deep and amazing, where Shoghi Effendi declares our deep interconnectedness with the environment. Also, when he talks about the human heart, is he talking about our physical heart, which we know can be affected by the environment outside it? Is he talking about the human heart, which we read in the writings being the seat of God? He then talks about our inner life, which molds the environment. Again, what is he referring to? Is it our physical life or our spiritual life and our values and manners? I don't have an answer again. However, I feel looking after ourselves and the environment, physically and spiritually, will have positive mutual reactions and would bring us happiness. In a letter dated 1st of March 2017, the Universal House of Justice to the Baha'is of the world say, the welfare of any segment of humanity is inextricably bound up with the welfare of the whole. Humanity's collective life suffers when one group thinks of its own well-being in isolation from that of its neighbors or pursues economic gain without regard for how the natural environment, which provides sustenance for all, is affected. How do we do it then? Can we find a balance between loving ourselves as well as everyone else and the environment? On the one hand, we are to love ourselves, and on the other hand, we are to prefer others to ourselves. Indeed, it's a tough job and needs constant attention and meditation. In some answered questions, Abdul Baha says, for all beings are linked together like a chain, and mutual aid, assistance, and interaction are among their intrinsic properties and are the cause of their formation, development, and growth. It is established through numerous proofs and arguments that every single thing has an effect and influence upon every other, either independently or through a causal chain. In sum, the completeness of each and everything, that is the completeness which you now see in man or in other beings with regard to their parts, members, and powers, arises from their component elements, their quantities and measures, the manner of their combination, and their mutual action, interaction, and influence. Let us look at this quote from Abdul Baha from the point of psychological links and effects which each one of us may have on each other. How we feel, how we feel about ourselves shows in our actions and interactions. It projects onto others without us realizing it. So if we don't like ourselves, other people may think we don't like them. We may even appear unkind to others without even realizing it. At the same time, we should remember that this is a two-way street. So we could also be affected by the feelings of others with whom we come into contact. Someone may be unhappy and it projects on me. So I feel unhappy too. How do we differentiate if feeling irritable or unhappy or angry is from within me, or is it projected from someone else? We may not always be able to know where or from whom it's coming, but we can, as soon as we feel that way, consciously change our behaviors or actions and feelings to a happy one, so that we can project better feelings to others and make them happy. So what do I do if I feel angry, upset, or agitated about somebody? Abdul Baha says, think ye at all times of rendering some service to every member of human race. Pay ye no heed to aversion and rejection, to disdain, hostility, injustice. Act ye in the opposite way. Be ye sincerely kind, not in appearance only. Let him do some good to every person whose path he crosses, and be of some benefit to him. Yes, we do need to serve them and love them sincerely. How do I know, though, I'm sincere? Can I develop sincerity by telling myself that I am? Can I develop it by practicing it and by praying for it? People react differently to grief and at times of difficulty. In some cultures, people shout and scream and scratch themselves when, for example, a loved one dies. In some other cultures, people dance and sing behind the hearse. Baha'u'llah tells us, lament not in your hours of trial, neither rejoice therein. Seek ye the middle way, which is the remembrance of me in your afflictions and reflection over that which may befall you in future. Thus informeth you, he who is the omniscient, he who is aware. So as much as we feel sad or grieve for a loss, we need to choose the middle ground and remember, God is with us. But also we need to be mindful that this life has ups and downs. In this life, sometimes the sun is shining and sometimes it's cloudy or even stormy. But neither of these means that it will remain the same forever. Abdul Baha so beautifully tells us how to live and be sincere. He says, should other people and nations be unfaithful to you, show your fidelity unto them. Should they be unjust toward you, show justice toward them. Should they keep aloof from you, attract them to yourselves. Should they show their enmity, be friendly towards them. Should they poison your lives, sweeten their souls. Should they inflict a wound upon you, be a salve to their sores. Such are the attributes of the sincere. Such are the attributes of the truthful. I don't know about you. I sometimes find it so hard to be friendly or just to the unjust or unfriendly people. And I love how at the end, so beautifully, Abdul Baha says, such are the attributes of the sincere and of the truthful, reminding us that what he told us to do should be done sincerely and truthfully. Makes it so hard. So the ultimate step toward perfection, as Abdul Baha prays for us, we need to pray for ourselves and others so that we can continue to strive to perfection. praying opens our brain and thoughts to allow us to do better and do the right thing. I see it kind of like connecting to internet. It suddenly opens up ways and means. We can do anything, can go anywhere. So let us read this prayer together. O God, my God, shield thy trusted servants from the evils of self and passion. Protect them from the watchful eyes of thy loving kindness, from all rancor, hate, and envy. Shelter them in the impregnable stronghold of thy care, and save from the darts of doubtfulness. Make them the manifestations of thy glorious signs. Illumine their faces with the effulgent rays shed from the dayspring of thy divine unity. Gladden their hearts with the verses revealed from thy holy kingdom. Strengthen their loins by thy all-swaying power that cometh from thy realm of glory. Thou art the all-bountiful, the protector, the almighty, the gracious. Dear friends, these beautiful words are our beloved Master's last counsels and guidance. We just cannot ignore them. So at the end, I like to share this story about Abdul Baha, which shows us that we too can draw on the power of Baha'u'llah. So the story is, Abdul Baha arrived home very tired. We were sad at heart that he should be so fatigued and bewailed that many steps that he had to ascend to the flat. Suddenly, to our amazement, the master ran up the stairs to the top very quickly without stopping. He looked down at us as we walked up after him, saying with a bright smile from which all traces of fatigue had vanished, "You are all very old. I am very young." He added, "Through the power of Baha'u'llah, all things can be done. I just use that power." Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, May. That was marvelous. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
A lovely selection of writings.
Thank you very much.
Lovely.
I had to take so many of them off. I had so many. But I just thought people can't sit for 2 hours. And
Oh no, that's right. No, well, that was a lovely length, actually.
Thank you.
Very beautiful. Thank you very much. Fantastic. And
Thank you.
and each one of them, they all do bear thinking about and how to apply them. And there was some lovely new little insights you've put in there as well. So that's lovely to try and understand these writings. And because they're very practical things. This is a practical, this isn't like, oh, it's up in the sky. This is really just us, as you were saying, trying to get a good view of ourself and how we can make the best of ourselves. And it makes a happier world, really. That's fantastic. Thank you very much, May. Well, I'm sure we have some time, if that's all right with you, if anybody has any questions or comments or thoughts that they'd like to share. I think this would be oh, there's Moira. Moira's joined us from Orkney. Hello, Moira. Welcome. That's fantastic. Yes, well, as I say, please, everyone. Oh, and Maureen. Hello. And Janice. Oh, my gosh. There's loads. They've all been coming. They've been joining us. That's marvelous. And Matt as well. Oh, my goodness. Yes. Oh, that's good. And I'm so glad you all had a chance to hear these beautiful thoughts and from May. Well, please let's get the ball rolling now. Of course, it always takes a bit of courage. Start asking the first question.
I'm very happy to start, Robert. I'm very
okay.
I'm
Now,
very happy
Nat, of course, living in Shetland, but originally from La Belle France. I think I'm right in saying there, Nat.
Yes, Normandy. That's right. Yes.
So yes, if you have a question, did you join? When did you join, Nat? Was it halfway through or a little?
Well, I was absolutely touched by the the beautiful writings of Abdul Wahab, and when he speaks of humanity as a chain, and to me this spoke so loudly, because I mean nowadays, I mean in the current times, the chain seems to be broken down, and we have an opportunity to actually reenact this chain through this COP26 event. And there's been so many events, I mean, surrounding the you know, the summit, and I believe that through folks, I mean, a reaction to the awareness of what's going on, what we can still do. There's been so many cries of desperation, and there's been also a lot of action as well. And if that can actually begin to weave this chain that Abdul Baha was so beautifully talking about, I think there is a lot of, you know, there is hope with this alone.
Yes, no, thank you. No. May, would you like to say a few words on that?
No, I think I personally loved that quote as well. I think so beautifully he talks about how much connection there is between us, the environment, and all the other beings.
Yes.
You know, and then I had the writing from Shoghi Effendi, the Guardian, who also says that we can't separate us from the environment. We are all the same. We are all together.
That's right.
And we are still connected. Unfortunately, as you say, you know, it's become that connection has been forgotten. And so what has happened is we have caused so much harm to the environment, whereas we have got to remind ourselves, we have to be mindful that we're all together. This is all of us, the whole earth and us, the humanity, all of the beings.
That's right, life on earth. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Anyone else would like to make a comment? That would be lovely.
Moira has her hand up.
Look, did somebody have their hand? Oh my! I can't see everybody at the moment. Actually, I should go on the other type of view. I think gallery view there.
Yes.
There. Oh, that's better now. Now I can see everybody. Was it Moira? Did you have it? Yes, Moira, please. Moira.
I was going to add that the letters and messages we get from the Universal House of Justice is so vibrant, so full of love. And it's come at a time when we really, really need those messages. And they are so warm. And it is so touching to read them.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely. It's just amazing. And they say the things that we need to do. They're kind of steering us in the right direction very lovingly. Very lovingly. But they also say what needs to be done and what we need to, you know, think, how we think, really.
Yes. No, that's right, man. That's absolutely right, Moira, of course. And, you know, they're talking about this COP26 question. Well, I wish, you know, if they would just write to the Universal House of Justice and say, well, what do we really need to do here? And then they would just tell them, you know what I mean? And then everything would have that. You see, because this guidance is there for everybody. It really is. And I give an example. One of the ex-members of the Universal House of Justice was once at a talk, and somebody said, you know, one of the questions came up, how can they solve the problem in Palestine? You know, this terrible difficulty they've had. And why don't they just turn to the Universal House of Justice and ask? And they would help them, I'm sure. And he said, well, they would, but they haven't asked yet. So you see, the thing is, they never impose themselves on everyone. But they would help if they were asked, I'm sure. But you're quite right, Mara. It's a constant source of upliftment and encouragement, isn't it? Absolutely. And that's why we spend so much time reading these beautiful messages of love.
We started doing a 19-day feast letter for the community, the assembly. So I asked if I could put the wristband message just every month so far, you know, just break it up and add it each, so the whole message eventually was shared.
Good.
And it is so rich.
Yes.
And it was just lovely to know that we have it in the feast letter each month, bit by bit.
Yes, yes, yes.
Because they have the ability to put things in order, so that when you're sharing the wristband message, it's following a route, you know, that they are educating us. And it's just fascinating to read it.
Thank you, Mara. That's wonderful. Thank you. Yes, please. Any other? Yes, yes, Hushman.
I think Tahira had her hand up
Oh,
first.
pardon. Oh, I'm sorry, mate. Yes, that's right. Hushman, I'll come straight to you in a minute. Thank you, mate. I didn't notice, just as there's this the electronic hand. Yes.
Tiny hand. Thank you very much.
There you go, Thierry. Yes. Sorry, Dan.
Yeah, the part of the talk that really stood out to me was the part to do with esteem, because often in society we kind of see these like superficial means of trying to help people build up their esteem, when in reality it's the sheath of self that kind of gets in the way. And when we look at our true reality, then and reflect more, because it's a lot to understand, really. And it got me writing down different questions I can ask myself when I reflect. So I really enjoyed that part. Thank you.
Thank you. I actually sometimes tell my patients that instead of worrying about what's happening in your life, just go and do something for someone else. They don't always listen, but sometimes when they do, they feel better.
Thank you, May. Yes, thank you. Hushman, yes, you were next. Hushman, thank you.
Yes, yeah, thank you, Robert. Yeah, thank you, May. Excellent, like always. May, you know that we have this COP26 in a couple of days we are going to have. What is your expectation from this COP26? And if they give you a chance to raise your voice, what you're expecting them to do?
You were not supposed to ask difficult questions, Hushman. You were supposed to sit quietly and say, very nice, thank you.
As all husbands should do. Huh?
As all husbands should do, really.
The new state of being a husband. Sorry. Carry on, mate. Please forgive me.
My expectation really is, I'm hoping that with all the prayers being said around it, they will come to some conclusion, at least take, even if it's a small step toward preserving the environment, even if it's a small step. I just hope that they would start doing something. But people still need to be educated. People still need to learn that they have to love everybody, not just people in Britain, not just people in, France or America. They have to learn, they have to love everybody. Mm-hmm. And until they learn that, it's very difficult, because they're considering other people as foes rather than friends. And this is what Abdul Baha tells us. Doesn't matter if they're friends or foes, you have to love them. Once we learn to do that, so the more we tell people about all these beautiful writings in the Baha'i faith and hope that it would affect their soul, I don't know how much, but humanity just needs to learn. We just need to keep hitting our head to the wall, to the point that we say, okay, fine, now I understand, I'm going to do this.
Yes, thank you, mate. No, that's right. of course, the idea of oneness, the oneness of the human race. I know that really needs to be clear for everybody, you know, and that there's no more us and them. It's just us and us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that's what they say.
Yeah, we want the bigger piece of pie. You know, we want what we want, and the hell with everybody else. Whereas, you know, once we learn that everybody have to be happy before we can be happy, we won't progress.
Thank you. Please, any other comments and questions? You're all very welcome.
If I may, Robert, follow up on just what May just said, which is very, very vital if we really want to elevate ourselves as one. I think there is a task. I mean, I believe we are all aware of it, but is to unmake this not we cannot undo history, but we have to go beyond the centuries and centuries and centuries of one particular people wishing to dominate, or one area of the globe wishing to dominate the rest of the world.
Yeah.
I think this is very vital.
Sorry, Meg, please.
Sorry,
Yeah.
absolutely. I was thinking, you know, I just want to say a beautiful memory I have from Hushman's mom. God bless her soul. She had come to visit us in St. Vincent. And, you know, even though she had been raised as a Baha'i, it's still because she was in the culture of Iran. It was like, oh, Black people are not nice and this and that. So when she came to St. Vincent, in St. Vincent, most people are Black, are dark skinned. And at the beginning, she found it really hard, you know, that the children had friends who were not white, or, you know, we would always have people around who were different colors. And then gradually, she became very good friends. She couldn't speak one word of English, but she became friends with this lady, with this Baha'i, Vincentian Baha'i lady, Melanie, God bless her soul. And she just learned to love this woman. And one time I said, you do realize that Melanie is Black? And she was like, no, she's not.
Fantastic. I think
it's a question of when we get to know people, we love them.
Yes.
It's when we don't know people, when we haven't had personal connection with them, then we think, oh, no, people from other countries, from other cultures. It doesn't have to be different colored skin, just people from other cultures. They're not acceptable because we don't know them. But once we get to know them, once we have that personal involvement with somebody, we would start loving each other.
Yeah.
Really.
Thank you, May. No, that's absolutely right. Marion, I noticed you were just about to ask a question as well. Thank you very much, Nat.
Thank you. Yeah, I really enjoyed listening to that, and some readings that I hadn't come across before. So that was lovely. I've scribbled down a few pointers, and I can catch up with the YouTube later on. But one of the things that concerns me, I mean, I love that language of kindness quote. I thought that was fantastic, and that's something I will use and go back to. And also this notion of a stranger may find himself a friend. But one of the things that concerns me with the COP26 is really looking at this idea where people will sign up to statements of intention, what they're going to do, and then they go away and they don't bother. And I think, you know, it concerned me over the COVAX situation in Britain and Canada and different countries who promised in Cornwall that they would give so much vaccine, and then they haven't. And I believe today Gordon Brown has asked for vaccine that will actually go out of date to at least be used, because they were saying that 4% of Africa have only had the vaccine. So, and I think Gordon Brown had said that, you know, it's a global problem and nobody's safe till we're all safe. So within the writings of these little gems, you know, about is it deeds not words, make your deeds not your words, your adorning or something. But
Yes.
we've put one. Not good at remembering it. But you know, I think I want to kind of hold on to these bits that are helpful to move forward. But the reality is often a wee bit more disappointing, to be honest.
Mm.
And I don't know how you keep the optimism going when people are, I mean, I know you just say you don't do the answer with me, but do you know what I mean? There's something hard to try and hold on to that hope, really.
Absolutely.
When you see people moving really for selfish aims, and yet you see these little glimpses, like with carbon capture, they were looking at an outfit in Stroud who are actually bringing carbon down and creating diamonds with it, which is much better than digging up and destroying whole layers of earth. So I don't know if you could kind of shed some help on how somebody can keep hopeful.
That was right. May, please.
I was thinking, at first you talked about the quote from Abdul Baha, the language of kindness. At work, sometimes I get really frustrated if, you know, somebody was supposed to do something and they haven't done it. And I start responding with an email and start with saying, you were supposed to do this. And then all of a sudden I remind myself, where's the language of kindness? So I start by actually saying something more positive and also being mindful that they must have been busy. They must have had something else to do. Therefore, you know, so I just, because of thinking about that, I changed the tone of my response and I go, well, you know, I write it in a much nicer way. This thing about being hopeful, you know, I mentioned about projection, how we feel projects on other people. Do you notice sometimes, I mean, nowadays people don't go to each other's homes, but sometimes when you go to somebody's house, you go in and you immediately feel calm and relaxed. And you feel the love. And some houses you go to and you can't wait till you get away. You know, it's the point of projection. Abdul Baha also talks about this, that when I can't remember the quote itself, but there is the power of this spread of thoughts. So if we start thinking positively, we start being hopeful, then that will project to other people, no matter where they are. It doesn't necessarily have to be in UK, it doesn't necessarily have to be us in the same room, but it's the question of that power of the spread of thoughts, of good thoughts. And bad thoughts doesn't make any difference. You know, you can spread either one. We have that tendency, we project our thoughts, our feelings to other people, whether we want it or not. And so if I feel that I'm being unhappy or upset and keep being upset rather than changing that and start going, now, who is projecting that feeling to me? You better stop doing that. Rather than that, I can just change my own feelings. I can tell myself, I don't have to be upset. I don't need to be upset. I can be hopeful. And I can change it. It's us remembering that we have that power. We have that power of the mind. We can change things with our minds. We may not be able to move a pencil or a pen with our eyes, but we can move things spiritually, not physically. We can do that. So we need to remember that we have that power rather than sitting back and thinking everything seems hopeless.
Thank you, May. Thank you.
I hope it answered your question, Maria.
Yeah, thank you. I think that helps at a micro level, but yeah, thank you. I suppose that's a starting point, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, hello, Janice. There's a lovely picture of you there. You're muted. Can't quite.
I was going to say as well, I think just patience. It's, you know, I know we don't have a lot of time to be patient in, because that's the language we're hearing around us. It's one of panic, and it's one of almost a slightly hysterical pitch, and that's quite scary to listen to. I find it scary to listen to when I hear people saying disaster's about to befall all of us. I don't quite know what they mean by disaster. You get some ideas from this report and some ideas from that report, and in a way it's unhelpful, because then you're like a rabbit in the headlights, and when you're like a rabbit in the headlights, you stop and you don't act. You just wait for the car to hit you. And I think it's true that one must remain hopeful, one must remain positive, which is an act of will, and one must be patient that people will find the resources, find the ingenuity to resolve some of these issues that from my small brain are unresolvable, but there are very clever people out there working very, very hard who care very, very much. I don't know what I'm saying here, really. I think it doesn't really help to end up in that hysterical kind of state of mind, because the danger is then that you don't act, you sit and you fear and you fret. Whereas there's probably always things we can all do individually, whilst we pray for those who can do the greater things, innovations and inventions and otherwise.
Thank you, Janice. Yes. Yes, that's lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I was just wondering whether sometimes other people's thoughts can appear in your own mind and thought, heart. Is that really true, May? So, for instance, you're walking along and suddenly you have this thought, but it isn't really yours. It's just popped into your head.
Depends on what kind of thought is that.
Oh, I see. So this can happen, but it could be coming from yourself, or it could be a thought that's coming from someone else. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, to a small level, because in psychiatry we do have people who have schizophrenia and would believe that other people's thoughts come into their thoughts. So they think that my thoughts are not mine, but they're other people's. So we're not talking about that part. But yes, the feelings and thoughts sometimes just go together. Sometimes, has it not happened to anybody that you would suddenly, you're thinking about something and someone else says the same thing?
Mm-hmm.
It could very easily be the projection of the thought to your thoughts. Not in a psychotic way, but...
I mean, Carl Jung speaks of the collective unconscious and synchronicity, doesn't he? Where these sort of things suddenly come together, and almost like whether there's some sort of concourse in heaven or whatever, but there's something can feed into our thinking that may produce some other idea that wasn't there before, which is quite interesting. But certainly sometimes I've had a notion to phone somebody or contact somebody that it seemed really timely. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure other people have had things like that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes you pick up the phone to phone somebody and they phone before you have actually been able to dial.
I think Nat's been experienced that. Very good. Yes, please, anyone else would like to ask a question, or maybe somebody who hasn't had a chance yet to ask a question, please do.